Taking to the skies one last time, Taiwan says goodbye to its aging F-5 fighter jets.
This is the vote tally card. We're going to frame this one, okay? 218, 214.
The U.S. House passes Trump's big, beautiful bill, sending it to him to sign on the 4th of July. Ahead of the Dalai Lama's 90th birthday, we look back on the spiritual leader's life and legacy and what comes after. Plus,
感觉今年好像有特别热的感觉。
Taiwan is sweltering under summer temperatures, and people are feeling the heat. Good evening, and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. Taiwan's Air Force is saying goodbye to the RF-5E, a fighter jet that has been in service for almost 50 years. Our reporter Jaime Okan was at the farewell ceremony in Hualien to see them in action before they retire.
These fighter jets are taking off for the last time. At this base in eastern Hualien, the military is holding a farewell ceremony to honor its RF-5Es, which have been in service for over 50 years. Many people here remember when the aircraft was first delivered, and defense officials say they're an important part of the country's history.
我想，今天是一个历史，我们空军永远是一棒接一棒，强棒出击，守护国家安全是我们空军的责任。
Across from the airbase, military enthusiasts started camping out as early as 5 a.m. to see the aircraft. While the F-5s have been in service since the 1960s, it wasn't until 1973 that they really made their mark here. Under the Tiger Peace Project, Taiwan partnered with the United States to co-produce the F-5E, and more than 300 of the jets were built here through the 1980s. This version, the RF-5E, is mainly used for reconnaissance and takes pictures using special cameras and sensors under the nose of the plane. Pilots here say it's bittersweet, as those kinds of missions with the F-5 are officially done.
心情是非常的兴奋，也非常的紧张，因为其实是最后一批任务，自己知道是最后一批任务，但是还是要战战兢兢、兢兢业业完成这一批，最后要把它圆满达成。
China has been upping its military pressure on Taiwan, with its People's Liberation Army, or PLA, sending hundreds of military aircraft around the country every month. In response, Taiwan has been trying to modernize its armed forces and can now be looking to use newer F-16s to defend the country's airspace, a move analysts say is likely.
It's a sign of the times. I think the threat from the PLA obviously is very different now than when the F-5 was, really a frontline fighter for Taiwan. And I think it's indicative of the fact that both the United States and Taiwan together have recognized that, okay, we need to cooperate where we can to make sure that Taiwan is ready to defend itself against an attack by the PLA.
Most of the pilots here say the airplane is a close part of their identity, but are excited for their next set of missions with a new aircraft. While it's a bit of a sad day for many here as they say goodbye to their beloved jet, the military is optimistic, and they say that changes like these are needed if they're set to continue handling the threats of today. Ryan Wu and Jaime Okan in Hualien for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's top research institute predicts that the economy will grow by 2.93% this year, but it warns of uncertainty over U.S. tariffs.
我们早期在预估这样的一个区间，大概也都是在15到20之间。但是如果我们谈得还不错，那也能够让这个美国的总统他们有一些宣传的效果的话，那甚至搞不好会有一个不错，大概10到15之间的一个状态。
Academia Sinica says GDP growth could range from around 2.5% to around 3.2%, depending on how various factors impact global trade. Meanwhile, the new Taiwan dollar continues to strengthen, adding pressure on the country's exporters. The government has formed a task force to monitor exchange rates and to support small businesses. U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping tax cut and spending bill has narrowly passed the House after days of deliberations. Tiffany Wong takes a look at what it could mean for Americans and for Taiwanese chip makers.
Republican members of the U.S. House of Representatives celebrate the passage of President Donald Trump's sweeping spending bill.
This is the vote tally card. We're going to frame this one, okay? 218, 214.
The bill's passage completes many of Trump's campaign promises, including extending his 2017 tax cuts. It will put $170 billion toward immigration enforcement. And it also includes a 35% tax credit for chip factories that break ground before the end of 2026. That's a 10% boost from the current tax credit for semiconductor manufacturers under the 2022 CHIPS Act. This could affect Taiwanese chip giant TSMC's $100 billion investment in its American facilities. The bill initially faced some Republican opposition in the House. Among other concerns, it's expected to add around $3 trillion to the country's debt over the next decade. Democrats opposed the bill unanimously and criticized the cuts to Medicaid, which could cause over 11 million Americans to become uninsured in the next decade. Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries tried to delay the vote, delivering a record 8.5-hour speech through the night.
Press on for the American way of life. Press on for democracy. We're going to press on until victory is won. I yield back.
But when the House came to a vote, only 2 Republicans voted against it. And President Trump called his party united in a post on Truth Social. Trump will sign it into law on July 4th, the country's Independence Day.
There could be no better birthday present for America than the phenomenal victory we achieved just hours ago when Congress passed the one big, beautiful bill to make America great again.
But his Republican Party may face more challenges soon. Americans will vote again for Congress in November 2026. And this bill may be a deciding factor for people casting their ballot on whether they feel the cuts were worth the cost. Scott Huang and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
An annual swimming contest between Taiwan's outlying Kinmen Islands and China's coastal city of Xiamen could be canceled this year due to concerns over Chinese influences.
我不会称它是单纯的运动，去那边就是要接受统战洗礼，从厦门游过来，等于是要游过我方的，进入到我方的禁限制水域。对这个事情呢，我们会比较谨慎的处理。
The cross-strait swimming event, now in its 13th year, is organized by China's Xiamen municipal government. It was originally set to take place in late July. The deputy chief of Kinmen County says they will respect the central government's decision, but stresses that the event is not political.
还要看潮汐，那也要看很多相关的这些气候条件，所以如果要再延期，还有各方面，确实在这个时间点会比较不好安排。我们还是希望可以很单纯的去进行这些相关的这些体育活动。
The Mainland Affairs Council, which governs relations with China, says it is still looking into the matter and no final decision has been made yet on whether to call off this event. Tibet's exiled spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, turns 90 on Sunday. It comes as tensions wrap up between Beijing and one of the world's most influential religious figures on how his successor will be chosen. Lizzie Wells has more.
90th birthday celebrations for the Dalai Lama started early here in Dharamshala in northern India. Particularly significant this year as the Tibetan spiritual leader brings an update about his succession. But as thousands come together to commemorate another year of the Dalai Lama's life, it marks one more year away from his homeland, Tibet. Born Lamo Tondup in 1935 to a family of farmers, he was just 2 years old when he was recognized as the 14th reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, the highest spiritual leader in Tibetan Buddhism, by a Tibetan government search party. In 1940, he was enthroned here in the Potala Palace in Tibet's capital Lhasa and renamed Tenzin Gyatso. But a decade later in 1950, China's new leaders, the Chinese Communist Party, invaded and annexed Tibet, proving an immense political challenge for the 15-year-old. After protests to the international community and initially seeking refuge on the Tibetan-Indian border, the Dalai Lama returned to Lhasa a year later, with Beijing promising Tibet could have regional autonomy and that the Dalai Lama could control internal affairs. He would go on to meet with the founder of the People's Republic of China, Mao Zedong, and the most senior communist leaders. But Chinese treatment of Tibetans deteriorated, and after almost a decade of tensions and fears over the Dalai Lama's safety, a full-scale uprising broke out in 1959, which was violently suppressed. The Dalai Lama was forced to flee, disguised as a soldier, making his way across the border to India, where he was granted asylum. Ever since then, he's lived in this Himalayan town, where he established a government in exile and has dedicated his life to advocating for Tibet and his people. On that journey, he's become one of the world's most recognizable figures, meeting with presidents and religious leaders around the world. And becoming an icon for compassion and peace, receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989. But his influence and popularity have long been a thorn in the side for Beijing. The Chinese government accuses the Dalai Lama of being a separatist, and previous visits to Taiwan have particularly been met with an angry response. Beijing continues to demand the Dalai Lama recognize Tibet and Taiwan as integral parts of China if he ever wishes to return, as well as pressuring international leaders to give him the cold shoulder.
中方反对任何政府、国家政府借涉当问题干涉中国内政，反对任何国家领导人以任何形式会见达赖。
And this pressure from China is forcing the Tibetan Buddhist community to accelerate the timeline of traditions, as the question looms of who will succeed the Dalai Lama after his death, a matter where Beijing claims to hold authority.
Generally, while a Lama is still alive, there won't be any talk about his reincarnation. That talk only comes when that Lama passes away. But in this time, the discussion is coming mainly because the Chinese government is interfering in the reincarnation of His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama has previously said his successor will be born outside of China, but there has also been speculation as to whether the lineage would continue. And on Wednesday, he put the rumors to bed, confirming that he will indeed have a successor. The Dalai Lama says that his office, the Gadem Phodrang Trust, has the sole authority to recognize his future reincarnation. But as many Tibetans fear, China continues to reject this, holding on to an imperial-era selection ritual.
达赖喇嘛的转世必须坚持国内寻访、金瓶撤迁、中央政府批准的原则。
As Beijing seeks to tighten its grip on religious practices within its borders, Tibetans around the world fear a successor chosen not by faith but by force. And as the Dalai Lama nears 90, so too does a turning point, not just for his faith, but the identity and autonomy of an entire people. Camus Xu and Izzy Wells for TaiwanPlus.
Stay tuned to Taiwan Plus, because after the break, we see some marine visitors who haven't been spotted around Taiwan for decades.
I know I didn't grow up in Taiwan, but it felt like I did at times. I used to go down to Ren'ai to play basketball with some of the kids. I shadowed a little bit.
There's so many fans. We have so much support from everyone and all the fellow basketball lovers here. So I love Taiwan. Taiwan's just another home away from home.
那我们球场见。
Game on Taiwan, where the action lives.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. It is hot here in Taiwan, with temperatures hitting nearly 40 degrees in parts of the country. And doctors are warning that cases of heat stroke are rising. John Van Trieste reports.
It's almost 11 in the morning here in Taipei, and already the temperature is a sultry 35 degrees. By midday, it'll be even hotter. Out here on the streets, people say they're doing the best they can to deal with some of the stickiest days of the year so far.
感觉今年好像有特别热的感觉，然后因为像我以前不太流汗，然后就感觉今年好像 特别容易流汗这样子。
我觉得第一个就是要多喝水吧，因为真的其实现在人没有那么喜欢喝水。然后如果真的很常流汗的话，那就是除了喝水之外，还可以喝一点加盐巴的水，会更容易防止中暑。
Though these visitors from Hong Kong say it could always be worse.
香港比较湿一点，就容易出汗，这里也有一点风，所以就挺舒服。
And Friday is actually relatively cool. Thursday saw temperatures in parts of Taiwan, especially in the north, come very close to 40 degrees. This is one of several ongoing heat waves across the northern hemisphere, from Europe to the United States. And while air conditioning is common here, it's still taking a toll. In the first 2 days of July alone, over 100 people sought treatment for what turned out to be heat stroke. At this rate, July will quickly overtake June in terms of people needing emergency medical attention for heat.
大概一天可能5、6件有吧。早上最多当然第一就是老人家可能有时候晚上可能水喝少，然后晚上不开冷气，所以家人发现怎么老人家能全身发烫来，以为他发烧感染，其实很多是中暑。
There is a chance of a typhoon forming near Taiwan soon, bringing wind and rain, and the weather is set to cool down slightly over the weekend. But doctors say it's critical to watch for signs of heat stroke and keep as cool and hydrated as possible until this intense heat breaks. Joseph Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is targeting another platform in its crackdown on social media scams, Threads. The text-based social media app owned by Meta has more than 3 million users here in Taiwan, and it's seen some 2,000 reports of suspected scams since last September. It's being added to a regulatory framework that requires platforms to verify advertisers, develop anti-fraud strategies, and remove deceptive ads upon request. The measure is set to take effect for Threads on September 15th. Nearly 1 in 4 adults here in Taiwan use the app TikTok or its Chinese version, Douyin. But as its popularity grows, so does the controversy around it. A new report suggests that TikTok or Douyin users may view politics and culture differently from people who do not use the app. The report was published by Doublethink Lab, which investigates Chinese influence and disinformation in Taiwan. Our reporter Chris Gorin spoke to Doublethink Lab researcher Eric Xu to find out more.
So I want to start by asking you, why did Doublethink choose to look at TikTok specifically? What makes this app different, especially for Taiwanese users?
I think there's various reasons that Doublethink Lab we choose TikTok as the target to study. I think one of the most significant reason is the short form type of video is actually being brought by TikTok, and it kind of permanently changed people's habits on information consuming. And the other thing is also about, there's quite a lot of concern and suspicious about TikTok's platform, no matter on its controlling of algorithm or its potential pro-China situation. I think for those people who supporting democracy and wanted to remain the democratic resilience of Taiwan, we always have quite a lot of concern about TikTok.
I guess I'll just ask you straightforwardly, how much do you or does Doublethink feel that TikTok presents a threat to Taiwan's information ecosystem, or to its society?
I think I can only represent myself as the project manager to saying this, to answer this question based on our study. I will say, according to our 3 reports, TikTok has already significantly changed people's ideas on perception about PRC. And it is decreasing people's willing to resist and also reduce the sensitivity of people to identify what is PRC threats, because people start to think, oh, PRC is more livable. There's no significant difference between PRC life and life in Taiwan. So eventually people will start to think, oh, if the problem only happened between governments and politicians, then for ordinary citizens, why we need to fight for Taiwan if there's no difference? If one day that PRC conduct military invasion to Taiwan, our life will have no change, so why we resist? So I think this kind of idea has already started to influence Taiwan, and I think TikTok absolutely contribute a lot.
Do Do you think the danger is enough that Taiwan should consider banning the app completely?
I think as an activist, I will suggest our society. I think that is also one of the reasons that we wanted to do this project, because we want our partners or our society can have a chance to know more about TikTok or what exactly TikTok users' experience look like. Because as a democratic system, for most of our interviewees, they reply during the interview, they saying that they know that TikTok has some negative contents. However, they don't agree that they will be brainwashed by TikTok. So, and if banning TikTok without further discussion directly, they think it will make Taiwan have no difference with PRC. So I think as an activist, I will encourage government officials or other organizations more get involved in the study of TikTok and bring more social communication strategy with TikTok users, especially to younger generation.
On that topic, you did release a separate report specifically on younger people using TikTok. What are some of the specific concerns or the specific trends that you found among younger people using TikTok?
The one thing that keep making me notice during the conduction of the project is I found that younger generation has a sense of powerless and insensitivity to quite lots of things. So the powerless reflect in various perspectives. For example, when we ask their ideas about potential unification or their ideas about PRC threats, because of the powerless, they think there's nothing they can do. And because there's nothing they can do, so they don't care. Or they don't think it will be helpful if they care. And I think for also not only during the interview with our younger generation, when we talk with other teachers or educational organizations about the kids these days, they also found, compared with the previous generation, the insensitivity is really strong. It seems there's nothing can actually raise their interest. So I think when we put this situation back to the discussion of potential unification or potential military conflicts, we need to make our younger generation be able to care our system or to care Taiwanese democracy first, and then to more further encourage them to fight for our system.
That was Eric Xu, a researcher at Doublethink Lab. Find the full conversation on the TaiwanPlus website, search Zoom In, Zoom Out. In Indonesia's capital, Vespa lovers are transforming the iconic Italian scooters into electric vehicles while keeping the love for tradition intact. Adelbrat reports.
They may look vintage, but these Vespas are making history in a new way. In the heart of Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, a growing community is converting old gas-powered scooters into electric vehicles, keeping the style but ditching the smoke.
Itu punya desain yang cukup unik ya, dan saya ngelihatnya juga punya nilai historical gitu. Ya, ada nostalgianya. Jadi banyak hal yang sebenarnya bukan cuma berkendaranya ya, tapi secara fashionnya juga.
Haret is head of a new garage in Jakarta called Elders. With respect and care for the classic machines, they handle the conversions. Out with the old, in with the new. Indonesia faces a rising pollution crisis, with cities like Jakarta blanketed in smog from millions of motorbikes. Elders now wants to be part of the solution.
Modifikasi Vespa di garage kita, dan pada waktu itu kita kepikiran kayaknya ke depannya Vespa elektrik nih bisa jadi something yang solusi buat negara-negara yang memang mewajibkan motornya dengan emisi rendah gitu kan.
For customers like Dimas Sidiartmo, it's not about letting go of tradition, it's about evolving with it.
Paling di perempatan kita sering ditanyain ya, Mas, kok nggak ada suaranya ya, gitu. Harus aku sekalian jelasin, ini udah dikonversi listrik. Oh bisa ya, iya di mana? Gini. Sedikit mengasih edukasi ke orang-orang lah bahwa ya bisa loh, kita tetap make barang kesayangan kita, Vespa kesayangan kita.
For Haret and his crew, every quiet ride is a small victory for design, for heritage, and for the environment. Kama Shu and Adil Brar for TaiwanPlus.
Marine scientists in eastern Taiwan have spotted a pod of tropical bottlenose whales offshore for the first time in decades. The team says about 30 of the whales were spotted 10 nautical miles off the coast of southeastern Hualien. Tropical bottlenose whales usually reside in more southern areas of the Indo-Pacific. It's the first sighting ever documented near Taiwan.
现场辨识出它是朗氏喙鲸的最主要的原因是可以透过它头部的这个白斑白色的区块可以去做出辨识，以及它的这个比较长的吻端。朗氏喙鲸在野外常常会跟平鼻鲸可能会误认或混淆，但昨天我们留下来的影像画面其实都非常的清楚，所以后续都已经获得了一个确认。
The team says they plan to release a full report on this rare sighting. And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Follow us on social media to see more of our reports sent straight to your feed. Finally, take a look at runners in Madrid racing through the streets in high heels, part of their Pride celebrations. I'm Eric Yao. Take care. We'll see you next time.